Over the past 24 hours, billions around the world have watched in horror as Europe is plunged back into war, and we're witnessing that in this invasion of Ukraine in real time. Our social media is flooded with photos and videos on the ground as news networks cross to reporters, decked in bomb vests and helmets, reporters live on television, having to quickly shift locations to avoid the increasing danger of bombing. It is a tense and terrifying situation for the global community. Vladimir Putin's Russia is on the march and the West seems somewhat hand-tied in response. So joining me now live from Kyiv is Misha Zelinsky, Australian Fulbright scholar and national security expert. He's currently in the capital. He's working as a special correspondent for the Australian Financial Review covering this war. Misha, thank you so much for joining us. You're in the capital. What's it been like on the ground over the past few hours?
Well, it's been pretty intense. So we had reports overnight that Russia was likely to stage strikes in the capital at around 4 a.m. So sure enough, at around 4:15, there were some loud explosions that went off, and we had our sirens go off in the hotel where I'm staying. Everyone was instructed to go down to the basin, which is where I'm coming to you from right now. So if there's a bit of background noise, that's the reason. So we're all down here at the moment. We were then released very briefly, and then we'll call back down again as sirens are going on throughout the city warning about a Russian strike. So it's hard to know exactly where they're hitting, but you know the Russians are certainly getting closer. Over the last 24 hours, since I woke up 24 hours ago, I haven't really had a great deal of sleep. So what we've had is the Russian forces are closing in from the north through Belarus, through the east, obviously, to Russia itself, and then the south through the Black Sea and Crimea, etc. And so also reports it's very difficult to head west, so to speak, with all the roads, etc., very clogged up with people seeking to get out. So it is difficult to move right now. So the capital right now is surrounded. But we don't know to what extent the fighting's happening. There's claims and counterclaims both ways about the extent of which side is prevailing in firefights. Yesterday, as I was going around talking to Ukrainians, they were responding to President Zelensky's call to bear arms. He's saying guns are available to anyone who wants them. They have an army, but they also have a reserve, and they also have a local militia. So people have been joining their militia. I've been chatting to people who've been learning how to shoot. The Ukrainians, as a people, are quite well armed. Gun ownership's quite high here. They learn how to shoot at school. So they're getting ready to dig in for the fight of their lives. But we're waiting to see what the Russians do going forward. Certainly had reports that they've managed to capture Chernobyl, which is about 100 kilometres north from here. So, mate, tensions are obviously high. People are concerned. Everyone I'm speaking to by social media, by text messages, Ukrainian, they're scattering to go back to their families, believe it or not.
Tell us about this bunker, this makeshift bunker you've been forced to remain in for some part of this morning.
Yeah. So we're in the underground car park, basically. So there's nothing too flash. We're a couple of stories underneath the ground. It's very obviously well reinforced. So it's a good place to be if there's any sort of bombing or air raids, etc.
Yeah.
It's very sturdy down here. It's obviously very safe and well reinforced. It's a large hotel, so you can imagine the scope of the concrete and the reinforcing that's going on in here. So, it's quite safe down here. We've got food, we've got water. The crazy things that happen in life, mate, as I barreled down here this morning with all my bags at 4 a.m, having not slept, you run into Sean Penn, who's here.
The Hollywood actor.
Yes, Sean Penn is in the bunker. So he's here filming a documentary about what's going on here, and he told me he's very heartbroken about it all, and fair enough. I mean, I am too. It's awful. It literally breaks your heart, mate. I've been here a week, and I've fallen in love with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and the city of Kyiv. It's just a brilliant city.
So when the government says we're in a general mobilisation phase or zone, what does any of that mean to people in the Ukraine?
Well, it basically means it's deploying all national resources, not just people, obviously capital, everything else needs to be deployed, whatever you got, basically throwing the whole kitchen sink. So it's a total war effort to resist the Russian invasion. And I think everyone was caught by surprise to some extent that the Russians have come this aggressively. Now, I broke a story in the AFR speaking to the former National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump, John Bolton, who told me that he's very sceptical that Putin will try to take the capital. He believes that it's a head fake. that really what Putin wants is to gobble up the big eastern borders of Ukraine and certainly all the Black Sea sort of coastline to basically make Ukraine landlocked and give himself a land bridge, as it were, through to his military assets down along the Black Sea there. So that's his theory. He's talking about a big L shape, if you can imagine Ukraine, a big L being drawn in and around, and Kyiv being not part of that. He also said that it would help in the event that if there was a guerrilla warfare. It helps the Russians and Putin to just essentially expel people back to Ukraine, whatever's remaining, and not have to deal with a hand-to-hand firefight, which is what people are digging in for here. And,
yeah, this is interesting. It tells us a little bit, it tells the world a little bit about the persona of Ukraine people. They really want to fight for what they love and what they value so dearly. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they're incredibly passionate people, and this sort of notion that Vladimir Putin's pushing that, he is the sort of neo-Tsarist ruler of all ancient imperial Russia is a nonsense, right? I mean, firstly, if you know your history, the first king of Russia was a Viking, or, whatever you want to call Russia, we're the Russian-speaking people. And so the capital was in Kyiv Rus. Then it was razed in 1840 by the Mongols, and the capital of what became known Russia shifted to Moscow, which at that time was a backwater. And so he's sort of saying anyone that speaks Russian, forget about the borders. If you're Russian-speaking, if you're historically Russian, I own you. And it's a nonsense. If you think about it, it's like saying, well, should the Greeks get everything that Alexander the Great had and the Macedonians, or should the Mongols be able to take everything, given they conquered Russia? Or
it's a nonsense argument. Can I ask you just personally, before I leave you, I just wanted to find out, why are you staying there? Why don't you go and keep away from the bombing and get out of the danger zone?
Well, at this point, mate, the safest place is in this bunker, I suspect. It's very unclear what's happening out there. It's slow moving the traffic. If anyone wants to look at Google Maps, you can get a really live view of the level of jammed traffic on the arterial roads. And you can see the amount of traffic flowing around, and it's very slow out there. So, the idea of being stuck in a car, potentially running out of fuel, because there's a lot of dramas around fuel and logistics. At this point, staying here, but certainly ready to move. I'm here with all the other foreign journalists. There's tons of foreign journalists here, lots of security detail. And if we decide to move, I'm sure we'll either of us will move together. But right now, we're relatively safe here, and that's the advice.
All right. Misha Zelinsky, thank you so much for joining us, and please stay safe.